I'd like to thank Women in Consumer Technology and thank you all for taking the time to come to our panel, The Impact of Technology on Lifestyle Design. Some of us up here are designers, some of us are from the manufacturing side, and we have an integrator. And basically, from the standpoint of design meeting technology, the time is now. I am Toni Sabatino. I'm an interior designer from New York, a boutique lifestyle design company, and basically I'm all about how people live. I want my designs not just to look beautiful, I want them to be safe, convenient, and very comfortable for my clients. So getting into how they live, how they shop, specialty kitchen design, how they cook, how they entertain is really what makes my world work. And now I'm going to have the rest of our panel introduce themselves. All right, Dawn Deluca.
Hi, my name is Dawn Deluca. I am an interior designer who specializes in kitchen and bath. And I also have a very niche design perspective in that I work with a lot of people with living in place design and aging in place and adaptable. So I bring a bit of a different perspective to the luxury side of technology in the home and how we need to be putting some focus on living in place because of the change in our population and where it's going to be over the next 10 years. So I have been in the business for almost 30 years. The name of my company is Dawn Deluca on Design. I am very active with the National Kitchen and Bath Association as a volunteer and do a lot of presentations like this. So I also have a very unique client. Runs from luxury all the way down to a 2.5-year-old who we've had to design a home for him because he's going to come to a point in his life where he's no longer able to walk or really have any mobility. So how can we work to yes, it's unique and it's very enriching. So what kind of technology can we put in place for him and other clients like him to make sure that they can live as comfortable and safe a life as possible in their own homes? So thank you for being here.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Andresko, and I'm the communications director for Lutron. And Lutron is a manufacturer best known for lighting controls and motorized shade controls. So I'm here with the manufacturer perspective and how we work closely with the design community and the dealer community to help bring these fantastic products into homes all throughout the world. I've been with Lutron for about 20 years, and I go around telling stories about smart home and trying to help really get us to a place where smart home is looked at as really problem solvers and less about the, kind of that whiz bang factor. So really excited to be here today and look forward to talking with you.
Last but never least. My name is Heather Sidorowicz. I wear a few different hats out there. I own an integration firm, like probably many of you out there do, in Buffalo, New York. The company was founded in 1984, and I took over after working there since early 2000. I purchased the company outright in 2014. I also, you may have seen my name, I write for a few different publications out there from time to time. Probably most often at this point is Residential Systems, Reva Roundtable. I've written for CEDIA Communicates, and I'm also a CEDIA board member. So, and I have 2 kids, which just makes everything a crazy balancing act. I think that my approach in this world has been always different because, like what you just said, is I want to sell the solution. I'm not selling a product to my customers. I'm not selling many products. I'm selling solutions, and that's really where this whole design comes into play. So honored to be here today.
Thank you. So basically, technology. Technology to me is amazing. I'm 56, I'm a grandmother, and I watched my children, get their smartphones in their teenage years. I watched my grandsons, when they were very small, they'd shake a book. They'd wonder, how come it's not talking to me? Why isn't it doing anything? So it's a very interesting phenomenon to go in your life from watching a television with a large box on the back and a guy talking to a shoe and watch science fiction become science fact. And that's really where we are today. So as an interior designer, when I'm getting involved in my clients' world and their life, we talk about the pain of everyday first world living, right? Where am I going to put my stuff? And how am I going to organize myself? How am I going to make my life work? How do I get ready in the morning? How do I store my food? And also, as a specialty kitchen and bath designer, I am privileged to be the president of the New York City chapter of the Kitchen and Bath Association, and I'm watching the kitchen and bath communities get involved in smart home technology. We're seeing situations where your cooktop turns on the hood so that the ventilation is already in place. I just came from the Sura booth. Don't know if I'm allowed to mention names, but the smart mirror is absolutely amazing, where you're looking at all of your technology while maybe you're blow drying your hair and checking out your Facebook page, watching the news. So technology is something everyone is interested in. And I'm certainly never going to be a technology expert or a technologist, but understanding that there are partners that I can go to where I can bring my client enhanced value is really what this is all about for me. The idea that the user experience must equal the aesthetic in good interior design. I come from more of a luxury standpoint. To Dawn's point about the living in place issues. We're coming to places and times where the medical community has done their job to help all of us live longer and better. And now, we're in a situation where if we can enhance our lives with voice control and things like that, it certainly does help the living in place community. Would you like to speak to that a bit?
It does. And when we talk about living in place, we are talking about living in place. We are not necessarily talking about aging in place, which is it's a niche market within living in place. The idea of living in place is from the get-go, when we're building, okay, when we're in a new build situation or we're doing a remodel for a client, is that we are thinking about all of the different types of situations that can happen throughout a lifetime. We can be standing here right now. We're sitting here right now, essentially perfectly healthy. We can walk down a flight of stairs and have a catastrophic break that puts us in a situation where we might not be able to live at home for a 6 to 9 month recovery because that home is just not built to withstand it. Case in point right here, sorry to point it out, but it's difficult. So the way we approach things at my firm and in several of our colleagues as well is from the get-go is we're automatically designing for living in place. We're designing wider hallways. We're designing bathroom doors that open out instead of in. All of those kinds of things that will make life easier, whether you're aged, whether you've had an injury, whether someone in your family has cognitive issues, and technology obviously can play a phenomenal role in making the lives of people that need it function so much better and to be able to live at home for so much longer. And there's been a gap. And I think part of that problem for us having that gap is because we don't know where, as designers, we don't know where to turn. And as technologists, you don't know where to turn. So we're here to really start that dialogue and learn how we can work together. The way to approach things these days is in the beginning of a project, we hire an electrician, we hire a GC, an electrician, a plumber. We have all of these specialists. We need to bring you guys on exactly at that same time, at that very same time. At the beginning, it's been an afterthought, unfortunately, for a very long time, and that can no longer be. So we're here today to talk about all of that, and my approach, obviously, is not only about the luxe market. It's a fabulous thing when we can go in and give a client every single thing that they want that makes their house beautiful and fun to be in. But there's also this other whole approach. And being able to give a client who is sight impaired the ability to use voice control in their home so that they can live there without having to call for help all the time is absolutely amazing. There's an app out there right now that is international, and this gentleman developed it so that people who are blind and need help can call into the app, and there's millions of us around the world who agreed to be on a list, and if someone places a call and says, I need help, your name, it'll pop up on your smartphone, and you can help them solve a problem at home. They could be looking, let's say they're just looking for something on a shelf. So they're like, I can't find my Cheerios on this shelf, and we'll be able to guide them with their phone to where that item might be. So it's all encompassing, and we really, between our two worlds, need to get it out there to our clients that technology has to be in the very beginning.
Well, let's talk lighting for a minute, because basically we're on a tour. We are on the Design Connections tour, which is a really fascinating tour showing us what we can be incorporating into our clients' lives. So the idea with that is for the designer to understand enough about what they don't know to get the right person involved to answer all of the solutions-oriented issues. We just came from the Lutron booth and listened to that voice technology from Josh AI, and it was really pretty miraculous. In terms of lighting, we're not just talking about task lighting, we're talking about mood lighting, and I would love to hear you speak a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the big stories that Lutron tells is about how our lighting and shading control systems really offer peace of mind. So imagine, being able to come home to a well-lit house any time of the night. Or if you're traveling and the spouse and children might be at home, you have that peace of mind knowing that they're coming home to a well-lit house after soccer practice or ballet, and that you're always going to be walking into a space. Lighting has also become important, just as important when you're away. So, the classic scene in Home Alone where you see all those timers go on and the lights come on at, 6:10, 6:11 on that street, signaling obviously that the homes are empty. With these Lutron systems, you can actually set up what are called schedules. And so if you're going away for the weekend, you might set up a schedule so that lights are turning on and off at sunrise and sunset. Or you can even randomize them through a feature called Smart Away. So it's going to, randomly turn on lights, adjust shades throughout the period of time that you're gone to mimic occupancy. So, lighting has always been something about that feeling of comfort. And today I would argue that it's really helping move past the design element and really helping you get that peace of mind in the home.
I'm going to just throw in there that there's been some studies done now that things like turning lights all the way on can make you warmer. Have you heard this?
I have not heard that.
Yeah, so there's great. So I'm from Buffalo, New York, right? We get a lot of snow. So some really fascinating health benefits to light, and that the right light can really make your food taste better. And it's kind of, and really what changed lighting for me too was the fact that you're not pressing a button per se, but you're putting that, my lights turn on half an hour before dusk.
Exactly.
In January and July, those are completely different times.
Exactly.
And that's the quality of life, right? So that's that extra icing. That's what's adding to the solution.
Right. And to your point, Heather, there are a lot of studies out there linking lighting to health and wellness claims, and Lutron is definitely looking at that pretty closely. But for now, we believe that the entree into the home isn't necessarily for those health and wellness claims. There's still a lot of work to be done in those areas, but it's really more about making your space look better, having that peace of mind, being able to control everything through the app and have that convenience.
So let's talk about the high-performance home. I'm a believer that somebody who drives a high-performance car would like a high-performance home. And experiencing some of the voice control where your house welcomes you in, dims your lights, or you say that you want to cook, and all of a sudden the lights go on over your island. There's so much fascinating high performance out there, and I'd love to hear a little bit about the technologist approach in where that client comes to you. Do they come to you through a designer? Because from my standpoint, I love to be able to tell my clients that it's not just going to look great, we're going to make it perform better for you. And then I need the specialist to come in and make all of that a reality, to provide the hardware, to provide the software, and an understanding of basically what's happening here. So communication, really, I think we have an obligation to our clients to bring them the best possible environment that they can live in. And from there, how would you like to speak to the process?
Well, of course, as I'm guessing anyone would answer who's in this industry, the perfect place is in the beginning. For me, it happens, we're more mid-market, So it's often the client themselves. And I'll throw back at you is, I think the question that this gang will have is, how can we get in front of the designer? How can we build trust with the designers so that we have that conversation, so we're thought of earlier? Because I bet that many of the integrators in here, would have a decent amount of money if I said $1 for each time you got the phone call that said, hey, the drywall is going up next week, can we talk? And that's too late. Right? It's so much better if we're getting in on the ground floor so that we can talk about more than that. And also they're coming for a piece that they've heard of before. Hey, I really want a TV, or I really want music in here or here, and they're not realizing how much more there can be. And that's where that conversation comes together. That's where that synergy comes together. That if we're in the ground floor, if we're with the designer, it's not just that beautiful lamp that you're putting together. It's what bulbs are you using? Are these the right bulbs? How are we lighting that? Because if you're turning that all the way on, that's not the right atmosphere, right? And that's where lighting design comes in. Or what is the user interface? How am I using it? Do I like voice? I recently had this crazy story of going out to do an estimate for a client, and I said, they said, we don't want to use our smartphones. We don't carry them. We don't want to touch them. We're just really averse to that. I said, great. I have a solution for you. How about voice control? And she said, no, she will never come into my house. And then she told me that the digital pulse was coming and that it was a weapon. And that's when I said, thank you. I think my phone's ringing or I have to go
You're
right
ready
now.
to put on your collar on your head.
Yeah,
No,
so you never know really what you're going to get.
Um,
But the answer is, it has to be more of the conversation. We need to talk more. And how do these integrators connect with you designers? And what a great starting ground this is. But what would you say to us to say, this is how you can...
Trust is a huge part of the equation.
Absolutely.
You come from a brand, it's a trusted brand. Right, Melissa? So basically, understanding brand awareness, I think, is big for designers. And then finding the right relationship with the person who you communicate well with, because you've got to have the respect factor. There's got to be the part where I can come in and talk about my clients, their emotional pain with how their life works, right? All those first world problems that we have. And then the other person has to look at where I'm coming from and understand that I don't speak the technical language and propose solutions that are actually going to work to enhance the lifestyle. So I think the communication is huge here.
Well, and I think the manufacturers also have a responsibility to present the design community with beautiful products, because I think, and I'm very happy that CEDIA is facilitating this conversation, because as recently as a few months ago, I've heard designers say, I try to talk my clients out of technology because I don't think it's going to look good on the wall or, in my design. And so that's where the manufacturer really has an obligation to say, look at these beautiful finishes and colors and the way these will stand out in your design if you want them to, or they can blend
Or
in.
recess, yes.
And
TVs that become art.
Exactly. And so I think, again, some of the responsibility is with the manufacturer, so that you can be assured that when your client says, hey, I saw these motorized shades at my friend's party the other night, that you don't say, no, you don't want those, that you're actually embracing the idea and bringing in the technologists to help facilitate those conversations.
There's also the idea of trust, where technology has changed a lot. I'm somebody who did a smart home, right, a number of years back, and there were 3 100 CD changers. We had a Yamaha piano with a disc lavalier. We had all sorts of really great things, and the sad part of that story is some of them are outdated, they don't all work. But what I've watched happen is I've watched the technology just become so fantastically magical through cloud things and wireless that it seems that you could always update now.
Well,
so
that's also where we're failing in the story, right? So when we're selling these systems, we don't talk about it like the high performance car of, you don't just buy a Ferrari and then never bring it in for repair, right?
Exactly.
You need to tell the story to say, this is gonna need to be updated. This has a life cycle of such.
So the one thing I want to say is, you did ask the question, is how do we connect? And I'm not sure. We talked about individual ways to connect, and obviously that's not working. So as CEDIA is here, you have other design associations, ASID, NKBA, IDS, write it all down, because there are chapters in every state, multiple chapters in every state. I'll repeat, ASID, NKBA, IDS, AIA, which hopefully you all know, and IFDA. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get a hold of the calendars for their events in your area, and you want to get up out of your chair in your office or however, or off of your ladder doing an install in a 20-foot ceiling, and make sure you're at those meetings. Quite frankly, it's as simple as that. That's the way we're all going to build trust with each other, by getting to know each other, by showing interest. And the same thing for us. We need to start looking at events that are connected with technology in our cities and make sure that we're there.
Well, also events. Speak to the fact that, I mean, this show is now owned by Emerald's Expositions, that owns KBIS, International Contemporary Furniture Fair. That's for a reason. I mean, there's a major convergence here, and all of us need to be paying attention, because designers who are not concerned with how it works, in my opinion, are going to be looking for work themselves in a few years. How it works is very important. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you can be a voice of the industry, the National Kitchen and Bath Association has something called Voices of the Industry. You go to the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show and you present your case in a room, and basically this is a very important case to be made. So I would also encourage technologists, integrators, people who create all this magic that's not really voodoo, that's really computer programming, to get involved in those type of situations. I think that there's a major growth opportunity there, particularly with kitchen and bath. I mean, we talk about lighting. We don't have anybody up here right now from BSH Corporation or Sub-Zero, but you buy a new dishwasher now and it's connected. You know, you go onto a little app and it knows that you own it. You know, and from that standpoint, if something's not working right, you'll get an alert. If your refrigerator door is left open and you go on vacation, it's going to tell you before all your food goes bad and you know there's water all over your floor. But there's more to it than that. Like the intuitiveness of the cooktop turning on the ventilation system is pretty miraculous. And now you know you can go to the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show and sit in a Tesla and tell the car to tell your coffee maker to make you a latte. And as long as you have a cup in the coffee maker, you're going to have a coffee when you go in. So the idea that all of this is here and now, I think is absolutely incredible, and I'm very excited to bring that to my practice. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, appliances are absolutely amazing. What's happening? We can have you can have a client that let's say that they're blind. And they can certainly get the roast out of the refrigerator and put it into the oven, but they cannot obviously see to set the temperature and the timer and things like that on it. So we have now with the ability is you can call someone up on the phone and they can step you right through it, or you can call and say, hey, put the roast in the oven, and then from wherever you are, you can start the cooking process. And they're not worrying about being burned eventually, or that they've set it at broil instead of reheat. You name it, it can go. So as we bring all of this started at the Lux Market, and now it certainly has worked its way down. We know many major brands now that
there's want and there's also need.
Right.
You know, so addressing
there's
the
a difference.
needs
So
is
now more of a need is being addressed as time goes by, and it's up to all of us to understand what the product is, what we need from you as designers. We need a little bit of education. That's where Voices of the Industry comes in great. If you're comfortable talking in front of groups of people, put a 30-minute presentation together that we can present at some of our chapters, association
CEDIA
chapter meetings.
has a program for that, the CEDIA
Right.
Outreach Instructor.
So,
it's a one-day program.
right.
You can go and get your certification and then teach classes that you need anyway. Right, that will keep up on technology. There are ways.
Right. How do we choose the right integrator or technologist, whichever terminology you're using?
So
and
basically,
things like
that gets a little bit into process here. So this is kind of my ideal process. Client hires me. I'm going to listen to their opinion of living, and as we're going through all of that, there is a point where solutions need to be proposed. And for me, that gets involved in storage, it gets involved in entertaining style, it gets involved in how you get your information during the day. Are you a news junkie? Do you do family movie night? Because AV is important. I mean, ultimately, entertainment is important to us as humans. We love it. So, there's that. Then there's the part that makes life simpler, that makes life more comfortable. Climate control, security is huge. Understanding that, I don't know, you could look at the camera that's, you went on vacation and you have a bird and you want to say, hi, Beaker, and make sure he's okay. As far as so many different aspects of home security, from the standpoint of someone who maybe have someone in the house who has Alzheimer's, and you want to be able to shut your house down and know they're not going to escape or they're not going to burn the house down, turning on the stove. You have a vacation house, you want to be able to have the lights go on and off, you want your Lutron shades to be raising and lowering so nobody knows you're not home. So all of those things are things I'm going to listen to, and then I need to go and find Heather and say, Heather, what can you do for this lifestyle? Does that make sense to you, Heather?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and then it becomes a conversation, and I say it to every client is the best systems are the ones where we continue to communicate. We can have that conversation. I can interview you and put that together in one great cohesive piece, but it may not still be it. So I always ask my client for the respect of, let's continue the conversation. Once I present it to you and we talk about it, we may need to tweak it a little bit to make sure that we're covering either with the designer back to the client. You may find out another piece of information that you'll bring back. So communication is of the utmost importance.
Yes. What also would help us in terms of process is most designers should be working with a questionnaire, just like you guys do when you're interviewing with a client as to what your technology you're going to be providing for them. We do the same, obviously, in terms of design and what all of their needs are going to be and their wants are going to be. So most of us have not had a part of that lifestyle questionnaire that deals with living in place. So we've added, we've come up in the living in place world with some questions that can be added to one standard lifestyle questionnaire when beginning to work on a project. That would be something that we would love to be able to add to our questionnaire is the tech side of things. And I can't learn all of this. I don't want to learn all of this. So what are the right questions that we can ask the client to kind of really start the process for you in terms of what their needs are or what you need to know, so that when we're making a selection of an integrator or a technologist to bring on board, that we're choosing the right one. And as well as some other things in there in terms of budget and things like that. If we could have a high, a low, and a low, medium, and high type of number that we can start to give people, and obviously no one's holding anyone to anything, but a low number is going to give you this. This is going to give you this. This is going to give you this.
You also have to consider the environment, though, and
the environment,
and
of course.
The actual locale in the country, because
exactly.
You can be in an apartment, or you could be in a suburban home where you're talking about the amount of shades, whether or not we've got a garage door that needs to open. But absolutely, to your point, I think that finding someone in your market that can walk you through what those steps are for you personally would really help.
And really, from the manufacturers and from your standpoint, what qualities and qualifications should we be looking for in an integrator?
Right.
Or a designer? I don't know where to begin or to end with that. I'm being very honest, and that's not good.
Do you see industry standards happening? I'm seeing that this is a huge business. I mean, everywhere you look, you see technology. You watch television, pop culture is bringing it to us through movies, right?
Right, and it's more prevalent than ever before.
Absolutely. So do you see that there are more industry standards for people like yourself to follow?
I think that's where CEDIA really comes into play, and CEDIA, I'll speak kind of as a board member at that point, is to say that that's part of the strategic plan, is to really make sure that the standards are out there and understood, so that all the members who are part of CEDIA understand them, so that you as a designer, when you go out to find a CEDIA installer, then a CEDIA member, then you know that confidently that they know this minimum amount of information, so that you're getting someone along that path, wherever you are in the country or the world, because we're now international. And I agree, technology is more prevalent than ever before. And it's awesome, right? I mean, I always say, what we do is amazing. We have the coolest funnest jobs. When we go to the conference, look what we see. We don't, it's, if we were accountants, and no offense to anyone's accountant, I just don't think it would be nearly as interesting. So it's a good place to be. And it's, again, communication, process, putting yourself out there, telling the story, and then just making sure it's the right solution for the client.
And to this point, I mean, about it not going away anytime soon, I mean, this is only going to become more and more prevalent. I mean, voice has become truly the entree, in my belief, into smart home. I mean, the voice assistants, the manufacturers have done an amazing job of making these so mainstream that, I forget the latest figure of how many homes in America are actually using a voice assistant. But, people are becoming so familiar with how easy that can be that it's only going to lead to more and more business along the way. And so this is not a fad. It opens the door.
So the moment you can say, okay, I
gateway.
can talk to this voice, and now someone comes over to my house or your house, and then you say, okay, I can now talk to that, and my curtains are opening, or my music is playing.
Well, and even I won't mention any of the brands, but one of the voice assistant manufacturers, upon buying that voice assistant, you start getting a weekly email that will say, did you know that these other smart devices connect with your voice assistant? And they start planting seeds, and the attachment sale rate is unbelievable. So if people start seeing these seeds planted, and they're calling you and they're calling Heather, and wanting to have these dots connected for them, I mean, this industry is just exploding. This is going to be an opportunity for a long, long time.
And to the point too that it seems fantastical and luxury, but it's not. Technology is for everybody, and you think about how many years ago it was that carrying a cell phone was a big deal, and now everybody has a cell phone. So it just seems that all of this is going to follow suit. Yes.
Yes. It's as important as having plumbing. That's the way I look at it.
Agreed.
We all need to flush a toilet. Sorry. It doesn't get more primitive than that. But on the opposite end of the scale is technology.
A great line I heard recently with kids is, if you ask them, would you rather go a day without a glass of water or a day without internet? Which would you choose? And there's a pause.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like,
I can live a day without water.
Yeah.
So we really enjoyed the opportunity to talk with you, and our basic takeaways from this whole thing are that we really want to create an ultimate living environment as designers, and we can't do that without the aid of the technology community. So I'm grateful to the people from the PR agency that brought a bunch of us designers to the show to really open our eyes and let us see what we can offer to our clients. I think that all of the designers here will be taking that back to their communities. I know that my chapter of the NKBA is going to be hearing a lot from Dawn and I about this, and we plan to have a meeting that's centered around technology.
So if anybody here is in the New York tri-state area, say hello to us later.
Come and visit us. So with that, basically that would be our social media, our email addresses, and we really want to thank you and thank Women in Consumer Technology for bringing us up here. And with that, we really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you very much.